we've been doing the names of God. And this is my opportunity, my first name. I did the introductory going into it, and then I've had people share it and stuff, but this is my first time of being able to share a name. And being the pastor, I get to pick what I want to teach. And so I go, I get to do a name like that. Well, God told me I had to do this name. And this name is Jehova-Rapha. In Hebrew, it means the Lord who heals. Jehova-Rapha, the Lord who heals. I'm going, okay, God, this is kind of funny because I deal with chronic pain and stuff like a lot of other people here do and all that. And I've been having a really bad week. And I'm going, God, why are you having me teach this? And then, I'm having a bad week. He goes, well, when you start doing what I want to do, the enemy tries to always distract you and take you down. But he goes, I knew this was going to happen, so I want you to go through this so you can encourage yourself to my truths, to understand who I truly am, so I can be encouraged on what's going on. And so the whole thing with the name Jehova-Rapha, the Lord who heals. What's really funny is the first time it actually appears in the Bible is in Exodus 15. You can write this down, 15, 22 through 26, and I'll read a little bit of it in a minute. But I'll tell you a little bit of the story. This is the great exodus out of Egypt. Moses goes in, does all this stuff, all the plagues and diseases and all the stuff going on, making Pharaoh and the Egyptians all the way they are, and God had his hand over them, protecting them, but he was protecting them from it at that time. So they start leaving, and they're going on their way, and then all of a sudden the armies start chasing them in their chariots and all the stuff, and they're going to take them down. Pharaoh just got mad and said, okay, forget it, I'm just going to go wipe you guys all out. So they're running to get to the Red Sea. Well, what do? Well, they cried out to God, and all of a sudden, the Red Sea parts, dry land, and they go running through. This wasn't a real quick thing. You got to remember there was lots of people. And it wasn't just all of them, it was all their belongings. And what was really cool, it was most of Egypt's wealth, too, going with them. So it isn't like they're just sprinting with, running their jogging outfit or anything like that. They're going through. They get through all that, and all of a sudden the seas collapse on the chariots and the warriors and all that, and Pharaoh's armies are destroyed. So now they can go on at their pace. Now, how many of you, after going through that, if you were there and you see the seas part, and then you see the seas flood in and kill your enemy, wouldn't you be a little jazzed? Wouldn't your faith be just boosted a little bit? After all what he did in Egypt to get you out, and then doing that? Well, 3 days later, 3 days, they're traveling to Shur, and they get out into the wilderness in the desert there, and they run out of water. And they start complaining. They get into Moses' face, start griping and complaining, and then they start complaining to God. We would have been better off in Egypt. 3 days, and all of a sudden their souls became bitter. And they come into this part of the desert, and they come to this place where there's waters there. And they go up, and they're going to go run up, and they think, all right, we've been saved, we're going to get water. They go up to the waters, and the waters are bitter. They can't drink them, they're no good. So they even complain more. And they become more angry at God, and their souls become even more and more bitter. After he just did all what he did. So Moses goes to the Lord and says, what do I do? And God probably thinking, well, we should do this, but we're going to do this instead. They deserve this, but I'm going to do this instead. And he says, take this limb, this part of this tree, and throw it into the water. And they threw it into the water, and the waters became sweet. And so they named it Marah, for the bitter waters of Marah. And so the waters became sweet, and everybody's calmed down a little bit and all that kind of stuff. But in verse 24, I want to read. It says, and the people complained against Moses, saying, what shall we drink? So he cried out to the Lord, and the Lord showed him a tree. When he cast it into the waters were made sweet. There he made a statute, and an ordinance for them. And there he tested them and said, if you diligently heed the voice of the Lord your God and do what is right in his sight, give ear to his commands, and keep all of his statutes, I will put none of the diseases on you which I have brought on the Egyptians, for I am the Lord who heals you. What's really funny is the first time that the word Jehova-Rapha is used, the Lord who heals, is God healing bitter souls. Healing people of anger and frustration and spite and just, meanness and all that stuff. That's the first time it's actually spoken about the God or the Lord who heals. And how often is it that God has to step in and heal us because of the way we're feeling, our unforgiveness and our bitterness and our, frustrations with people, this and that, and God's got to love us all. And, I can see him, again, I got to do this. But he's Jehova-Rapha. He's the one who does it. He's the one who heals us. He's the one who's patient with us. So, and like I said, that's Exodus 15, 22 through 26. You can read it. But Jehova-Rapha is more than what we think. He's more than just that. He's more than just a person who heals, our unforgiveness or our frustrations and all that. In 2 Kings 5:10, he heals physically. And in this is the story of Naaman. Anybody heard the story of Naaman? He's a great general. He's a powerful, rich man who controls armies. So much so that when he went to his king and said, well, my servants that told my wife, she's from Israel, that there's Israel, they can heal me of this. And so the king sent silver and gold to the king of Israel at the time and said, well, can you heal my general here? Because he's very important to me and to all the armies and all that. And, the king of Israel gets mad and frustrated and tears his clothes. Who does he think I am? God, I can't heal anybody. Well, Elijah heard about it. And he says, well, send him here. Send him to me. I can do this. And so Naaman goes to his house, Elisha's house, and he goes there, and he says, go down to the Jordan River and dip 7 times, and all your leprosy, and all your leprosy will be healed. Well, he goes up to the River Jordan, and if anybody's really seen the River Jordan out there, it's really muddy and icky. And this is an important guy. And he's sitting there, and he's up on the banks, and he's going, I got leprosy, but I'm not getting in that. Well, he had a conversation a few times, going back and forth. So he goes down, and he dips in the water and comes out. He doesn't get healed. He dips in the water and comes out. And the 7th time, he dips in the water, and he comes out, and he's healed of his leprosy. So that's an example in 2 Kings 5:10 of God healing physically. There's a whole bunch more in there. We could be here for days doing this. Like they once said, if you put in a book all the things Jesus did, we wouldn't be able to have enough to contain it. I mean, it's just, he did so much. So that's one of the things of Jehova-Rapha, healing physically. And now if I can get my hands to work. In Psalms 34:18 is an example of God healing, Jehova-Rapha healing emotionally. The Lord is near to those who have a broken heart and saves such as have a contrite spirit. He's near to you when your heart is broken, when your emotions are in an uproar, this or that. And if you're feeling contrite and all that kind of stuff, he is there. It says, he is there, near, in dealing with the situations in your life. But we have to let him do it. We have to recognize that Jehova-Rapha is the one who is about doing what he needs to do. We try to do it ourselves, and we might start drinking a whole bunch or watching things or popping pills or this or that, smoking stuff, because, it's going to make me feel better. And that isn't it. It's Jehova-Rapha that will come in and heal. It wasn't the medicine that the doctors were doing at the hospital that brought Kent back here. I talked to them. I even had conversations with people in the church who know medicines, and they even tried other stuff they weren't trying, and things weren't working, and they literally gave up. Yep. They called me and they said, we're giving up, we're giving up, we're going to take him off the ventilator, and we're just going to let him go. They called his mom from California, he came over, all that kind of stuff. God had a different plan. Jehova-Rapha stepped in. He became near, and he started working on his behalf. In Daniel 4:34, he heals someone mentally. Yep. The story of King Nebuchadnezzar. How many of you know the story? King Nebuchadnezzar, a very arrogant, full of himself guy. Sounds like an American. We get that way, and we start saying, oh, I'll do it my way. I should have had Frank Sinatra's I Did It My Way song again. And not only did he had the whole attitude of, I'll do it my way. Even when God did stuff, he still said, I did it. God didn't do it. God had to knock him down a few pegs. Has anybody ever been knocked down by God a few pegs? That's right. It happens. And so he made Nebuchadnezzar mentally unstable, you can say, to the point where he even had the appearances of and took on all characteristics of a wild animal out in the wilderness and eating grass. From king to eating grass with the wild animals and going nuts. And people looking at him going, what in the heck is going on? And then all of a sudden he has a revelation within that crazy mental mind of his. And he starts realizing, look at me. I'm the lowest of the lows. And he was thinking he was the highest of the highs. And he realized that Jehova-Rapha is the one that is high. And he committed his life to God in that. And then God restored his mind, restored his physical body, his mental body, all that stuff, and rose him up and put him back on the throne. Only God can do that kind of stuff. Only God can do the stuff where man says, oh, no, they're done, and boom. If you want to hear some stories, Monica's dad could tell you some stories about that kind of stuff. And Uncle Bruce could tell you some stories too. I mean, they had the mom that you break a leg, she pray for you, you get healed. And it wasn't mom, it was God, right? Cool stuff. Jehova-Rapha is cool. But we have to remember that he's there and that he wants to be active in your life. In Psalms 103, 2 and 3, he heals spiritually. We all have been touched by Jehova-Rapha. In one way or another, because you're sitting in this room, you've been touched. And this one will come into play. Psalms 103, 2 through 4. This is the Passions. Yahweh, you are my soul's celebration. How could I ever forget the miracles of kindness you have done for me? You kissed my heart with forgiveness. Isn't that awesome phrasing? In spite of all I have done, you've healed me inside and out from every disease. This is so good, we got to read it again. Yahweh, you are my soul's celebration. How could I ever forget the miracles of kindness you've done for me? You've kissed my heart with forgiveness. In spite of all I've done, you've healed me inside and out from every disease. You've rescued me from hell and saved my life. You've crowned me with love and mercy. Isn't that cool? Not only did he save us from the wrath of hell, but he crowned us with love and mercy. He kisses our heart with forgiveness. He brings healing where there seems to be no healing. We don't know why or what or when or how he's God. And we got to quit trying to figure him out completely, but we just got to know he is Jehova-Rapha and he does what he does because that's his character. That's his love for us. And we have to remember that so we can walk in it. And we have to do it in all aspects, because I remember, and I've shared this story before, but I went in and I went to the hospital. My arm was all swollen. They did a veneogram, and I had a 5 or 6 inch blood clot in the deep vein at the time in my bicep in this arm, going up into my chest. And the doctor says, well, if it breaks loose, it's going to go into your heart or your head, and you're going to be dead. I was 18 years old. And it was not a good thing. So that was on a Thursday. Friday morning, I went into the church, had the elders pray for me. They anointed me with oil and prayed for me. Went back to UCLA Medical Center on Monday. They did another veneogram, and the blood clot was gone. And then the doctor says, well, where'd it go? We have this one. It's not, everything stopped. Now it flows, and you're alive. Later in life, I got a 7-inch blood clot in the shallow vein thrombosis there, in that one. And it took a year and blood thinners for it to go away, after being prayed for, anointed with oil and all that kind of stuff. God can just, boom, heal. Or he can do healing through people, through doctors, sometimes through medicine. But through that year of doing that, God had to do a lot of healing in me, in my mind, and in my heart. Because I'm going, man, you did it, boom, like that before. What's the deal now? I'm sitting here, supposed to be somewhat healthy, and have to be on blood thinners, this and that. And, the blood clot's gone. It took a year. The flow went back through and all that kind of stuff. The purpose was still done, but he got to work on me in ways that he wouldn't have if he would have just done it instantly. And there was things in me that needed to be healed that wouldn't have been healed if he just would have done it instantly. There's things that, sometimes the parting of the Red Sea is an awesome thing, but sometimes he has to have some healing of the bitterness of the soul and have to go through some of the stuff to walk through that, to recognize it. Sometimes we go through what we go through so we can understand daily that he is our source in our health and our healing. There was a reason why Jacob walked with a limp for the rest of his life. It was to remind him that he wrestled with the Lord. Did he get the blessing? He did. His Red Sea's parted. But he had a remembrance every day of that blessing that was put on him. So he'd remember where it was from. Sometimes we have to remember that our Lord, our healer, is going through it with us and getting us through what he needs to get us through. If he doesn't instantly heal you, he'll give you the empowerment to get through it. And like my friend Steve over here says, when we get to go home with the Father, that's complete healing. In every way. And I was talking to people last week and even this week. Complete healing here is good, like I said. But you know what? Even if you have complete healing here, you still have the heaviness of the sin of the world on you. When you have complete healing and get to go home with the Father, that is something you have never experienced. Well, some people have. And we'll tell you about it. But why would you choose to be here when you could be here with him? Jehova-Rapha, healing here. Jehova-Rapha, healing there. He's still the same God, doing different things for different reasons. And he knows more than we do. So part of trusting him is walking in that healing. Amen? And what's really cool, and I'll get to what's really cool in a minute. I got a couple more things I want to read real quick. I'm sure some of you have read this before. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement for our peace was upon him. And by his stripes we are healed. All we, like sheep, have gone astray. We have turned every one to his own way. And the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. Guess what? That's Isaiah 53. That's Old Testament. Everything I've read so far is Old Testament. This is Jehovah-Jireh working with this people. Did I say Jehovah? It is Jehovah-Jireh. It's all of them. Woo! Jehova-Rapha. James threw it back up there so I'd remember. Thank you, James. Jehova-Rapha. Working in his people. Through his prophets, through his key people, through the priests, doing all the stuff he was doing. Healing his people of bitterness. Healing, physical, emotional, all that kind of stuff. But he had to go and do things and go through stuff and go through somebody. Guess what? All of us now, most of us all, because we have a relationship with him, have Jehovah-Rapha in Jesus. I just read Isaiah. He was talking about what God was already loving us so much, he made a way back then, and he was talking about it. Let's jump to 1 Peter 2:23, and I'll read it. Actually, I'll do verse 24. Who himself bore our sins in his own body on the tree, that we, having died to sins, might live for righteousness, by whose stripes you were healed. For you were like sheep going astray, but have now returned to the shepherd and overseer of your souls. Jehovah-Rapha, the Lord who heals. Jesus restoring you. You're adopted in. You're a part of the family. The whole thing is talking about a statement that is summarized in the New King James. One of the commentaries did it this way. The ultimate plan of God is not divine healing, but divine health. Divine health is your birthright in Jesus Christ. If you're here and you have a relationship with Jesus Christ, you own that birthright to walk side by side with Jehovah-Jireh. You no longer have to go see the king or the prophet or the priest or this or that. You can do it wherever you're at, by yourself, with friends, with family, whatever. Jesus did it all way back then, and now he's doing it all with you now, if you will allow him to do it. You have to remember, he is the one who does it. Regardless if it's instant healing or a long road or any of it, he is with you in all of it. And he knows what is best for you. That's part of our mental healing, I think. So when we start thinking we know more than he does. And we need that. And I can get off on a whole new sermon on that one, but I'm not going to go there. But what I want to do this morning is we want to take communion. Because Jesus, our Jehovah-Rapha, got on that cross. Before he got there, took on the stripes, bore all the stuff he did for us to provide that character that he gives to us, that love that he pours out on us. He got on that cross and never complained. Didn't become bitter. He had to do it all without that stuff to make it work. And he loved you so much that he did that. And he died on that cross and he was put in the grave. But then 3 days later he rose again. 3 days. 3 days to become bitter, 3 days to break bitterness. He did that for you. If you were the only one in this room, he would have done it for you. And he wouldn't have complained about it. Because that's how much he loves you. That's how much he wants to be Jehovah-Rapha with you. So when we take communion this morning, I just ask if you guys go ahead and you can start coming up and grab a cup and a piece of bread. Let's go back to our tables and we're going to take communion together. And we're going to recognize Jehovah-Rapha this morning. What Jesus did for us, bringing us into his family and restoring us back to him and the Father.